Our divide is being orchestrated, and we're all suffering because of it. Join me in this heartfelt episode where I address the dehumanization taking place in our world. In this episode, you'll learn the dangers of labeling each other, the importance of recognizing our similarities and not just our differences, how labels prevent you from being a compassionate human, 5 steps to rehumanizing our divide, and 3 things you need to release in order to contribute to the rehumanization of our world. If you are a leader who is ready to evolve your presence, leadership, and business to create radical alignment in your life right now during these times, and you're seeking to surround yourself with like-minded leaders, I invite you to join me in the next round of Potent Leaders. 4 months, 10 leaders, and 1 incredible life-changing journey. Get on the waitlist for the next round of Potent Leaders, launching at the beginning of 2022 at www.rubyfremon.com/potent leaders. Now, if you have yet to get a copy of my book, Potent Leadership, you can grab your copy today on Amazon everywhere. You can also head to potentleadership.com or ask your favorite local bookstore to order a copy in for you. The book will also be available on Audible, if not now, shortly. Now, whether you are a loyal listener or you're brand new to the podcast, welcome. Please take a moment to download a few episodes and drop a rating and review on iTunes. Every single download, rating, and review helps get this podcast out to more leaders around the world. Now, it is time to talk about humanizing our divide. Beyond the narrative, underneath the veil of illusion, and deep within your center, therein lies potent truth. Welcome to Potent Truth, where today's leaders, change makers, and light carriers come together to question the narrative, arrive at potent truth, and lead with sovereignty. What is potency? It's who you are beneath the masks, facades, and protective gear. It's the medicine humanity yearns for, cries out for, prays for, and needs. Your potency is what sets you apart, magnetizes your following, and creates movements. Join me, Ruby Fremon, for weekly guidance, channeled messages, and potent conversations that will take you on a journey of self-discovery. I am here to guide you to a place of unraveling the programming that's been keeping us stuck for generations, unlocking potent truth and expressing it through sovereign leadership. It's time for change. It's time for potent truth. Hey, leaders, and welcome to another episode of Potent Truth. And I want to start off by saying, or by being really honest, that today I received some pretty horrific news about a very, very close family member who had a horrific reaction to the vaccines. So the episode that I had planned to record today, I'll end up recording that another day. Today, I want to talk about something else that's really on my heart and on my mind right now, and that is humanizing our divide. So, as you know, there is a divide happening amongst humanity, a divide in our society, a divide in our neighborhoods, a divide in our schools, in our workforces, in our lives, in our families. There's a divide in our societies, in our homes. There's a divide that is taking place right now in humanity. And what you need to understand is that this divide is being orchestrated. It is being orchestrated by those in perceived positions of power. And we're all suffering because of it. And we're all suffering in our own ways. Some of us, the suffering may be extremely visible. because we wear a heart on our sleeves. And for others, we mask the suffering with this idea that we are a warrior, that we are a freedom fighter. We mask it. But underneath all of that, underneath all of it, there is suffering. We as humanity, we are suffering. And it's because of this divide that is being orchestrated in our world. We are being trained to dehumanize one another through the use of labels. And this is not the first time in history that this has happened. Some of you may still refuse to want to see this, but this happened in World War II. This happened in the Holocaust. This has happened time and time and time again. You divide humanity. You label one side as the enemy. You label one side as filthy, as dirty. And the other side as the saviors. The other side as the good ones. This is how you create confusion in humanity, and this is how you gain control. Those in perceived positions of power, that's what they want. They want control. And the best way to gain control of a collective is by dividing that collective, by pitting them against one another. And we're all playing into this. Whether you call yourself a freedom fighter, or you consider yourself to be one of the people who's saving humanity, whatever it is, wherever you stand, I don't care. We're all playing into this bullshit through our actions, through our words, through our shares, through our social media posts, through the gifts, through the memes, through the name calling, through the fucking labels. And it's these labels that are dehumanizing us. Think about it. Consider someone who is hesitant to get the vaccine due to their own health conditions or other reasons. Now, this person is labeled as anti-vax. And that label of anti-vax comes with an entire definition. So before you can even get to know what this person is all about, get to know who they be, you block that. You block your ability to actually get to know them because you've stuck this label on them. And by definition of this label, they are this, 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 and this. And that is how you choose to see them. On the flip side, think about someone who supports the vaccine due to their health conditions or other reasons, and how now they're being labeled as sheep. You don't know this person's history. You don't know why they believe what they believe. You don't know why they chose the vaccine. Yet because they did, you stick the label of sheep, and that label comes with its own definition that is predetermined. And by sticking that label on that person, on that human being, you dehumanize them. You box them into the parameters of this label, which prevents you from getting to know them at all. Once you label someone, you stop seeing them as a human, and instead you start seeing them as a label. And we're seeing this on all fucking sides. But the truth is, and I've said this time and time again, we all want the same damn thing. Someone who chooses a vaccine may choose it because they believe this is what's going to keep them healthy. Someone who doesn't choose the vaccine may not choose the vaccine because they believe this is what's going to keep them healthy. We all essentially want the same damn thing. We just have different ways, different beliefs of how we're going to achieve that. But we can't even see those similarities because we're so busy labeling each other, dehumanizing one another behind the safety of our black screens. Right now, as the divide continues to grow, we have an opportunity. And that opportunity is to humanize our divide. So where do we begin? How do we start humanizing this divide? Well, we have to start seeing one another as human beings, humans being in this existence, humans being on this journey together. And I'm going to offer you 5 steps to rehumanization that I strongly urge you, encourage you, invite you to put into practice immediately so that you can contribute to the humanization of our divide, to bringing us closer together instead of further apart. Step 1 is to respond, don't react. Reactivity is at an all-time high, and quite frankly, it's because people are not doing their own inner work. We react from our triggered wounds. We react from those spaces within us that we have yet to address, to acknowledge, to heal. So the only way that you can get yourself out of that reactive state, or to prevent yourself from dropping into a reactive state, is to focus on your inner work, to devote yourself to your own healing, to expanding your own self-awareness, to practicing observation of self and of others without judgment, to be undeniably devoted and committed to your own journey of personal growth, personal expansion, and the healing of mind, body, and spirit. Then and only then will you gain the power to respond and not react. And because we are human beings, even when you do react, you'll have the self-awareness to understand that, oh shit, I'm reacting. I need to take a step back and get myself grounded again so that I can respond. So step 1, respond, don't react. Step 2, and this can only be done once you've achieved step one. So step 2 is to activate compassion. When you're in a reactive state, there's no way in hell you're going to be able to tap into compassion or empathy or love. When you're in a reactive state, all that you're going to tap into is judgment, anger, frustration. When you're not in a reactive state, that's when you can access compassion. And compassion can happen for others without needing to believe what they believe. You don't have to believe what someone else believes just to practice compassion. You can be compassionate for someone despite your differences. So that's step 2, activate compassion. Step 3 is to see, listen to, and acknowledge others. You've heard me say this a lot. It's in my book, Potent Leadership. Every single person on this planet just wants to feel seen, heard, and acknowledged. Everyone, yourself included. But if we're all reacting towards each other, we're never going to see one another. We're never listening to one another. We're never acknowledging one another. I have seen the shittiest behavior in comment threads on Instagram and in Facebook, in social media, on Twitter, wherever it is. I have seen some of the shittiest examples of human behavior. One example is someone posts something about being against the vaccine, and then someone in the comments posts something about family members dying due to COVID. And then that person reacting without even acknowledging what this person said. Like, they have family members that have passed. Now, for all of you listening, despite what you believe about COVID, okay, this goes for myself as well, because I know we have our own beliefs about what this is and what's actually going on. Despite that, what you're failing to acknowledge is that people died. People that were close to this person, family members, died. And you're not acknowledging that. Where has the human gone? Like I said in another episode, have we lost our humanity? Our ability to be human is to see, listen to, and acknowledge others. So when someone is talking to you, see them, listen to them. Don't just wait for your turn to speak, and acknowledge them. Acknowledge what they're feeling, acknowledge what they're experiencing. Step 4 is to seek to understand and not to persuade or change. So after you've completed the first 3 steps, that's when you get to a place where you can actually start engaging in a conversation. And it's so important to engage in a conversation with the intention to understand, not to persuade, manipulate, or change the mind of the other person. Seek to understand the other person. And by doing so, they will feel seen and heard by you. And you will gain more insights. Like the example I shared earlier about how whether you're for the vax or not for the vax, your choices may be just due to your own beliefs around health. If you seek to understand someone in a conversation, you may find that you're more alike than you think, or than the labels want you to think. And then finally, step 5, and you can only do this once you've completed step 1, 2, 3, and 4, is to love one another despite your differences. Those in perceived positions of power are fueling our divide. They're orchestrating this divide. They want us to hate each other because that creates chaos. And when the society is in chaos, it's easier to gain control. So love your fellow brothers and sisters and human beings, despite your differences. I mean, since when are we a society that doesn't embrace differences? Many of us were taught and raised to embrace our differences. And yet here we are going back in time. It's like we've been sucked into a time machine, and now all of a sudden we're not allowed to embrace each other's differences. Instead, we need everyone to be the same. No, that's not how this works. That's not what being human is all about. You have to love your fellow brothers and sisters despite your differences. So those are the 5 steps to rehumanization. And you're probably wondering, some of you might be wondering, okay, yes, and like, what do we do about the people in perceived positions of power that are actually orchestrating this divide? Well, look, as long as humanity is divided and occupying ourselves with this divide and fueling this divide, we cannot stand united against those in perceived positions of power. We don't have to be in unity, meaning we don't all have to be the same, talk the same, believe the same in order to stand against those who are fueling so much evil in our world. We don't need to be the same to do that. We can embrace our differences, and by doing so, embrace our freedom to choose what's best for us. And in doing so, stand united against those in perceived positions of power that are trying to control us. So just think about that. The last thing I want to add is there's some things that we all need to release right now. All of us, myself included. 3 things specifically. And the first thing we need to release is hate and judgment towards those who believe differently. Again, practice the 5 steps to rehumanization, because that hatred, that judgment that you have towards people who believe differently, remember that person is not a label. They are a human being. And if you follow the 5 steps to rehumanization, you will start to see them that way. The second thing we have to release is all expectations with regards to how other people act or react. It's like having a conversation with someone, but with the subconscious intention to persuade them to think like you. No. Or having a conversation with a family member with the expectation or intention to have them believe like you or make choices like you. No, that's not how this works. That is persuasion. That is not understanding each other's differences. So any expectations that you hold with regards to how other people react or act You need to release those expectations and just allow yourself to have loving, engaging conversations with compassion. The third thing you need to release is this need to wake people up or change people's beliefs. Who are you to wake someone up? Who are you to change someone's beliefs? We are all on this journey called life. In fact, we're all on the same fucking journey. We're just at different points in our journeys. We're just in different stages of our own awakenings. And who are you to rob someone of that journey? As you know, if you think similarly to me, you have gone through your own awakening process, and that was a process that you needed to go through. No one dragged you through the mud to get to where you're at. So offer your fellow brothers and sisters the dignity to do the same, to go through their own journeys. You can plant seeds. You can have loving, compassionate conversations where you're seeking to understand one another. But don't do so from a place of needing to wake people up or change another person's mind. Because all of that is simply fueling our divide. The humanization of our divide begins with you. It begins with me. It begins with each of us doing our part to rehumanize our behaviors and our actions towards one another, to start seeing one another as fellow human beings, as our brothers and sisters, and not just a name behind a black screen. This all begins with you. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Potent Truth, where I'm taking you on a journey to challenge illusion and lead with sovereignty. Reminder, if you are ready to evolve your business and your leadership to create radical alignment in your life during these times, and you want to surround yourself with like-minded leaders, I invite you to join me in the next round of Potent Leaders. 4 months, 10 leaders, one incredible transformative journey. We're relaunching at the beginning of 2022. Get on the waitlist today at rubyfremon.com/potent leaders. That link and all the links will be in the show notes. If you have yet to grab your copy of my book, Potent Leadership, head to potentleadership.com and grab your copy today. It's also available on Amazon. You can also go into your local bookstore and ask them to order in a copy. And the book will be available on Audible shortly. By the time that this episode releases, it might already be on Audible. So we'll see. And finally, I need your help to get this podcast and this message out to more leaders around the world. So if you love this podcast, if you appreciated this episode, please share it with a friend and download a few episodes. Drop a rating and review on iTunes. Every single download, rating, and review helps to get this podcast out to more people around the world. Finally, please connect with me on social media. My handle is @IamRuby. I would love to connect with you there and hear about your biggest insights. And for those of you who have been sharing pictures of the book, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you have the book, please share photos of you with the book in your stories and tag me at @IamRuby and use the hashtag Potent Leadership for a chance to get featured. That's it for today. Make sure you check back on Monday for a brand new episode of Potent Truth. Aho family.